Hi friends and ambassadors, welcome back to Maker's Mark Distillery. Each year we have an ambassador day at the distillery called the Thoroughbreds and Redheads, where we get a chance to allow the ambassadors to tour the distillery and see how we make your Maker's Mark. This year we got to have a special display where we even saw how the barrels are made. So for those of you that couldn't make it, we'd like to take you on a tasting where we'll talk about the 1, 2, and 3-year-old Maker's Mark. But first, we'd like to start at the beginning. So come along with me to an ambassador exclusive tour of the Independent Stave Cooperage so you can see how the barrels are made. We're at the Independent Stave Cooperage Stave Yard. I thought I'd just take a minute to show you a little bit of what makes our barrels different. The main thing that we do that's different than everybody else is we require that our wood be seasoned. And what I mean by that, it has to be cut and then left out in the yard for 9 months. It has to include a full summer. Now, according to this pallet tag, this wood's been out here for 8 months already, so it's just about ready to go into a barrel of Maker's Mark. Now I want to compare. This is what the wood looks like that goes into a normal barrel, and you can see there's a lot of difference between those two. Now what's going on out here is several things. The first thing is that the elements just beat down on this wood. Over the repeated cycles of temperature and rain, a lot of the tannins bleach out of here. And tannins are incredibly bitter tasting, and we want to chase that out of Maker's Mark every chance we get. Second thing that happens is during this seasoning process, some of the lignins in the white oak break down to form vanilla. And we'd like to have as much vanilla as we can get in Maker's Mark. The third thing is that we're really letting nature take its own course. And by that I mean we're allowing nature to dry down the wood. And now let's go inside and meet Jimmy Wickham from Independent Stave Cooperage, and we'll see how your barrels are made. We require Independent Stave to make our barrels to a different specification and standard than all the other barrels that they make. The first thing is we require them to make our barrels with a thicker head and to toast it instead of charring the heads, because we think that that makes for more extract from the barrel. The next thing we do is we ask them to make our barrel with fewer staves than an average barrel, because we feel like fewer staves means fewer joints, and that means the barrel's less likely to leak. We also ask that our barrels be charred for 40 seconds, or a number 3 char, which is lighter than a standard barrel, because we feel that that materially changes the taste of the wood extracts. We get more berry flavor, as a matter of fact, from that charring process. Finally, we ask Independent Stave to hold our barrels to a higher standard during the inspection process, which means that a lot more barrels that would otherwise be destined to be Maker's Mark wind up getting rejected in order to meet our higher standards. Welcome back to Maker's Mark. It was a lot of fun going over to Independent Stave Cooperage to see how the barrels are made. I thought we'd take just a few minutes and just review what's gone on with the Ambassador whiskey over the last 3 years. Now, the guy on my left is Kevin Smith. He's the Master Distiller in Training here at Maker's Mark, and those of you that came to the Thoroughbreds and Redhead event will recognize him as the guy that served you the Ambassador whiskey. Kevin, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you saw with the 1-year-old?
Okay, thanks, Dave. It's good to talk to you all again. Just as a reference, the whiskey that comes off the still is clear, and then we expect that there's going to be some age, some change in color after that first year in the barrel. What we traditionally see is that we'll see a straw-like color, we'll get sour notes on the tastes, and also in the aroma, it's still a little green, doesn't have quite the wood that we normally would have. We were really excited though with the Ambassador whiskey because the intense heat we had that summer really brought out a lot of color and a lot of the barrel components. And even our former Master Distiller, Sam Cecil, commented, he said that it looked 2-year-old, if not 3-year-old in nature. With that, Dave, why don't you tell them a little bit more about the 2-year-old and how it's changed?
Well, we like to talk about what's going on the palate with the whiskey. And the thing we like to imagine is that as it's maturing, that the sourness on the sides of the tongue goes away and it begins to get sweeter and sweeter and more intense. And one of the things that was really neat to see with the 2-year-old is how quickly the sourness from the grain is going away and how intense the flavors are getting so early. I can hardly wait to see what the 3-year-old's going to be like. Speaking of that, Kevin, why don't we go up to the warehouse and see if we can find some Ambassador 3-year-old to taste?
Sure thing.
We're on the 4th floor of Warehouse Q, and this is a really critical time for the first group of Ambassador barrels. They've reached their 3rd summer, and it's time for us to take a sample so that we can put it before the tasting panel and see if these barrels are ready to rotate this fall. Kevin, why don't you see if you can pull us a sample here?
Okay, Dave. Would expect that this whiskey's gonna look pretty good.
You know, the last 2 summers have been among some of the hottest we've ever had. And what that does is that helps the whiskey to expand out into the barrel and extract the wood chemicals a lot better.
Dave, it looks like it's got a lot of color. Oh, pretty good nose.
I believe that's some of the darkest 3-year-old that I've seen come out of our warehouses.
How's it taste?
Well, I don't know, but I'd be really surprised if the tasting panel doesn't say this is ready to rotate this fall. Rotation marks the midpoint in the maturation process here at Maker's Mark. The first 3 summers are like cooking on high. That's where we've got hot temperatures in the summer, cold temperatures in the winter, just to get all the wood character we can from the barrel. After the tasting panel votes on it, then we move them to a lower spot in the warehouse, and that's like turning that burner down to simmer to allow marination, if you will, so that all of the wood character and the grain character can come together to make a nice, tasty Maker's Mark. When your ambassador whiskey is finally mature, we'll invite you to visit us at the distillery, where you'll be able to purchase a bottle of bourbon from the batch that your barrel becomes a part of. We hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about Maker's Mark. And if you'd like to become an ambassador, all you need to do is fill out the card that we enclosed with this DVD and just drop it in the mail to us.
Until next time.
Hope to see you soon.
Come and see us again. We'll be glad to have you. Wait a minute, Whoa. Don't be a stranger.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Hope you had a good time. Next time, bring your friends.
Thanks for stopping by.
Until next time.